Bruno, written by Jack Cunningham. Brake vans are burdened with one of the biggest responsibilities on the island. With how notoriously difficult trucks can be, especially on Sodor, a brake van is an invaluable safety net for the engines on a heavy train. Placing such a large amount of responsibility on them makes them trustworthy friends on the island. All the same, not everyone is capable of handling such pressure, so only certain brake vans are reserved for long trains. A new brake van had arrived on the island, to which James would have the pleasure of meeting one morning.
Why, hello there. I've never seen a brake van like you around here before.
James's loud voice rattled the newcomer, but he managed to send a glance towards him.
Oh, hello. My name's Bruno. I'm new.
A new brake van, eh? We haven't had one of those for a while, it seems.
They told me I was a special multi-purpose brake van to be used on all types of trains, large and small,
Bruno said with confidence.
Most impressive. In any case, would you mind riding with me on this next one?
James asked as the brake van spoke politely.
I wouldn't mind. I'll certainly do my best, but it may be difficult.
Marvellous.
Oof.
James coupled Bruno up to the back of a lawn mixed goods, as all the while the brake van remained anxiously silent. Just then, the Fat Controller arrived in his car as James began pulling Bruno out of Knapford.
Hello, Bruno. Glad to see you've arrived. Oh, dear.
The Fat Controller watched with concern as James began pulling away with his train and Bruno.
I do hope he'll be all right, having not had his briefing. His last owner said he's bound to have teething troubles.
Meanwhile, James and Bruno were making steady progress along the main line. Bruno was trying to stay focused, but James was in a hurry.
Come along, you little twits. Lateness is not my colour.
Yeah, neither is red.
And the trucks giggled in their silly way.
Oh, you thought that was funny, eh? Well, laugh at this.
James bumped his train roughly, causing the trucks to grunt and groan. Bruno closed his eyes briefly before refocusing at the fleeting rails beneath him. He began to feel slightly dizzy. The trucks were cross.
Oh, you're getting it now, you red dingbat.
Things are a little different this time, lads. Just ask my new brake van.
New, you say?
The coal truck at the front configured a plotting expression as he looked back at the spotless orange and yellow paint of the trailing brake van.
We might be able to have some fun with him,
The truck said to himself as James made his way along the main line. Bruno heard the trucks noisily scheming behind him and throughout the journey tried calling out to James. But Bruno found it difficult to speak.
Bruno, that's the third time you've tried talking to me. What's wrong now?
The trucks. They are...
Irritating. Don't worry, you'll gain some thick skin against them in no time.
But Bruno wasn't so sure. Presently, they reached the dreaded Gordon's Hill.
This is a bit steep, isn't it?
No steeper than Licky. I've heard horror stories of that line.
You mean the 3.2 kilometre with a gradient of 1 in 37.7?
Well, I'm sure that is right. How'd you know that?
Bruno's guard chuckled as he called out to James.
Believe me, if it involves numbers and statistics, nothing gets past Bruno. Now, come on, mate. Just keep her steady.
Will do, Alex.
But the trucks had other ideas.
The usual routine, lads.
The trucks screeched on their brakes as James groaned knowingly.
Very clever. But can you handle this?
Now!
Wait, what? No! Don't do that! Oh, for heaven's sake, why does this always have to happen to me?
James lurched forward over the crescent and started sliding, rapidly descending the other side of the hill.
Help! 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 Bruno, do something! Anything!
James waited for Bruno to start braking, but unbeknownst to him, Bruno was starting to panic, and his guard found his brakes stiff to apply.
Nothing can stop us now! Oi! What's going on? Why are we slowing down?
The front trucks looked back to see a few of them at the back applying their brakes.
What's the game, lads? Are we losing momentum or something?
We're stopping this game right now!
Why would you do that, you idiots?
Come on, mates! Give that new brake van a break!
On a side, it looks like he's really struggling. I know normally I wouldn't care, but I feel kind of bad for this one. Besides, what fun is there if the brake van doesn't fight back?
Good point. Hold back, folks. Nothing to see here.
They slid into Kelstrup and stopped, just overshooting the platform. James was speechless. For now, at least.
I'd like a word with you. Bruno, what was that? The trucks had to do the work for you.
I'm so sorry, James.
Sorry? Sorry? I nearly faced a disastrous derailment, and all you can say is you're sorry?
Bruno felt tears starting to swell in his eyes.
Rest assured, the Fat Controller is going to hear about this.
As indeed he did.
It's my fault, Bruno.
What?
I should have given you your briefing before you were allowed to set off on a train.
But, sir, he's a new brake van. He should be able to handle trains that size in his sleep.
As for you, James, I would greatly appreciate it if next time you consult me before taking out a new brake van.
With all due respect, sir, why are you defending him?
It's out of your concern.
So apparently, me nearly crashing because of this faulty brake van is none of my concern, is it?
That's enough, James.
James went silent as Bruno closed his eyes. Of course, the Fat Controller had been angry before, but never, never had James heard so much passion in one of his controller's reprimands. The air went cold as both Bruno and James awaited the Fat Controller's response. They held their breath, the tremble of frustration evident as the Fat Controller finally spoke.
I shall speak to you later, James.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Shaken and confused, James puffed away slowly. After he left, the Fat Controller turned to Bruno.
Apologies for raising my voice, but these engines sometimes... They mean well, of course, but they are just so thoughtless with their words.
It's alright, sir. I don't mind. I always knew that it was going to be a problem.
No need to be so cryptic. My grandson has autism, and he's only just finding his way. It is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Nobody should ever be made to feel faulty for something that they cannot help. Now I'll give you the rest of the day off, and tomorrow we'll start again.
Yes, sir.
Bruno was placed in a siding near Tidmouth for the rest of the afternoon. As he sat, his eyes never strayed from his buffers. He felt shaken and ashamed after what happened. As the time went on, he heard the slow puffing of an engine backing down next to him. It was Edward.
Why, hello there. Bruno, is it?
Yes, that is correct. You were Edward, the number 2 engine who loosened his bogie wheels, which had landed in a field of cabbages.
Hey, great knowledge. I must admit, I'd nearly forgotten about that.
Me and my guard had a lot of spare time in that workshop. I can remember all 42 Railway Series books, and what order each story is in.
Well, hey, if I'm ever in the need for obscure facts, I now know who I need to go to.
Hopefully not when you need a brake van for a very heavy train.
But Edward did not see the funny side of Bruno's comment.
I heard about what happened earlier, and honestly, I'm a bit cross at James for being so inconsiderate.
Because I'm autistic?
Oh, no, honestly. Any new brake van would find being placed on a train of that size as their first outing really intimidating. Not to mention that disgusting comment he made afterwards. I wish I was there instead of the fat controller so I could give him a piece of my mind.
I had no idea you were so passionate about it.
There is a reason, Bruno. I have autism myself.
You do?
Well, let's just say it affects me a lot less than you.
Bruno looked down at his buffers once more as Edward continued.
But it still did affect me, especially in my younger years. It was a different time when I was working. Nobody understood what it meant or what it even was. If you'll remember in the first book, I was depicted as being stuck in the shed because the others were bigger and stronger than me. It is true, I was struggling with the work, but not because of my age or even my size. There was honestly just not that much business back then. What it really was how many different responsibilities I found myself with that became too overwhelming. I am a versatile engine, but so many jobs at once became a lot for me mentally. So I spoke to the fat director about it, and he decided that I should be taken out of regular service for a while.
But couldn't he just reduce your responsibilities?
Like I said, lack of understanding for my needs back then, or so I thought. When I was allowed to take trains again, I started with smaller excursions, some banking duties, and my personal favorite, shunting.
Why was shunting your favorite?
I honestly don't know. I just found it very calming. And what's more, I can make a routine out of it. Now, of course, I was oblivious to it back then, but then a few years ago, my driver came to me with a friend who was a psychologist. He analyzed some of my traits, and he gave me a minor diagnosis of autistic spectrum disorder, or ASD.
Bruno's eyes widened in shock.
Did the others know about this?
Oh, goodness, no. It's not that big of a deal, really. I don't think they'd see me any differently if I did or didn't tell them.
But what have you got to lose by telling them? You've proven many times in the past how useful you are, and with how many times I mess up. I even wonder if I truly deserve to be called a brake van.
Edward smiled.
So, you don't think you're a proper brake van, do you? Well, why don't we put that to the test?
How do you mean?
Come with me.
With Bruno and his guard's consent, Edward coupled up to the brake van and they set off. As they went along the main line, Bruno felt much more at ease. Without the pressure of managing a heavy train being burdened upon him, he could take in the beautiful atmosphere the main line had to offer. Presently, they reached the dreaded Gordon's Hill.
Come on, Bruno. Let's have a run at it together.
I don't know if I can, Edward. I messed up the first time, who's to say...
Listen to me, Bruno. You got this. Take a deep breath. And keep going!
Suddenly, Edward lurched forward and Bruno yelped as he was being dragged up the gradient.
Now get ready, Bruno. It will be frightening, but it'll all be over soon.
Bruno felt a little queasy, but he noticed something.
I'm all right. I made it. I just kept going and I did it.
Looks like you found the objective of the exercise then.
Which was?
Bruno, there are times when life will be scary and it seems like you won't be able to handle it. But those mistakes, they don't define you. You'll learn to cope with them over time.
But my whole life I've always been thought of as someone who needs extra guidance. But if that's not the case, then what am I?
You're so young, Bruno. You will find your place with time. And listen, don't focus on what others see or saw in you, because they will never know the full story. Only you know who you are.
Bruno stopped and thought about Edward's words with a smile on his face. Today, he had not only found a newfound friend, but a newfound respect for himself.
Edward, can I ask you something?
Of course, Bruno. What is it?
Bruno explained his idea to Edward and his driver, and then Edward's driver spoke to the Fat Controller, and arrangements were put in place. Bruno now works as Edward's dedicated brake van, helping him with goods trains up and down his branch line. He is now friends with everyone, especially James, who took the liberty of apologizing to the brake van for his harsh behavior. Whilst Bruno still finds the work difficult, Edward always remembers to be patient with him.
Hey! You alright back there, Bruno?
I am ready, Edward.
Now, these trucks are troublesome, so I'll need you to keep them in order for me.
Go for it, Edward. I can handle it.
Confidence, huh? I love hearing that from you. Let's rock and roll.
Bruno couldn't be happier, knowing he was now a part of the Fat Controller's railway.